Hello there, and welcome to Earth's History, where we explore the boundary between science and philosophy, where we ask whether the planet beneath our feet might be more than just rock and water, where we contemplate the possibility that Earth itself could be alive, aware, conscious in ways we're only beginning to understand. Tonight, we're venturing into one of the most profound and unsettling questions humanity has ever asked. What if Earth isn't just our home, but a living being? What if the planet has its own form of consciousness, its own awareness, its own intelligence that operates on scales of time and space so vast that we've never recognized it? What if we're not living on Earth, but living as part of Earth? Cells in a planetary body, thoughts in a global mind? If you've ever felt connected to nature in a way that goes beyond the physical, if you've wondered why Earth seems to self-regulate its temperature and chemistry with remarkable precision, if you've sensed that there's something more to our planet than blind geological and biological processes, you're touching on an ancient intuition that modern science is beginning to take seriously. The idea that Earth is alive isn't just mysticism or poetic metaphor. It's a hypothesis with scientific foundations, testable predictions, and implications that could transform how we understand consciousness, life, and our place in the cosmos. Wherever you are right now, I hope you're comfortable, settled, ready to expand your definition of what it means to be alive and aware. Ready to see Earth not as a dead ball of rock, but as a complex, self-regulating, possibly conscious system of which you are an integral part. Maybe you're lying in bed, feeling the solid ground beneath you. Maybe you're breathing air that has cycled through countless lungs and leaves. Maybe you're ready to consider that every breath connects you to a planetary metabolism that has operated for billions of years. If this exploration into planetary consciousness brings you wonder, if it changes how you see your relationship with Earth, if it opens your mind to forms of awareness beyond the human, I'd be grateful if you'd like the video, subscribe to the channel, or share it with someone else who wonders whether we're alone in our consciousness or sharing awareness with the very planet we inhabit. So settle in. Let your breathing synchronize with Earth's slow geological rhythms. Let your awareness expand beyond your body to encompass forests and oceans, atmosphere and biosphere, the vast interconnected system that maintains life. And let's begin our journey into the possibility that Earth itself might be looking back at us through a billion eyes, thinking with a billion minds, conscious in ways we're only beginning to comprehend. The Gaia hypothesis, Earth as a self-regulating system. Let's start with the scientific foundation for thinking of Earth as alive. The Gaia hypothesis, proposed by scientist James Lovelock in the 1970s and developed in collaboration with microbiologist Lynn Margulis. Lovelock was working for NASA, helping design experiments to detect life on Mars. He realized that one way to detect life on a planet would be to analyze its atmosphere. A planet without life would have an atmosphere in chemical equilibrium. The gases would settle into stable, predictable ratios based on chemistry and physics alone. But a planet with life would have an atmosphere far from equilibrium, continuously maintained in an unusual state by biological processes. Earth's atmosphere is wildly out of equilibrium. It contains 21% oxygen, a highly reactive gas that should quickly combine with other elements and disappear from the atmosphere. The only reason oxygen persists is because photosynthetic organisms, plants, algae, cyanobacteria, continuously produce it. Without life, Earth's atmosphere would be mostly carbon dioxide and nitrogen, with virtually no oxygen, like Mars and Venus. But Lovelock noticed something even more striking. Earth's atmosphere isn't just maintained by life, it's maintained at levels optimal for life. The oxygen concentration of 21% is high enough to support complex animal metabolism, but low enough that wildfires don't spiral out of control. Carbon dioxide levels are low enough to prevent runaway greenhouse heating, but high enough to support plant photosynthesis. The temperature, despite the sun getting 30% brighter over Earth's history, has remained within the narrow range that allows liquid water. This stability, Lovelock argued, isn't coincidence, it's regulation. Earth behaves like a self-regulating system that maintains conditions favorable for life. much like your body maintains its temperature at 37°C regardless of external conditions. Lovelock called this planetary self-regulation the Gaia hypothesis, named after the Greek goddess of Earth. The hypothesis was initially controversial. Many scientists objected that it seemed teleological, implying that Earth had goals or purposes, that it was trying to maintain conditions for life. How could a planet without a brain or nervous system regulate itself? How could unconscious processes produce coordinated planetary homeostasis? Lovelock responded with a simple mathematical model called Daisy World. Imagine a planet orbiting a star, covered only with two types of daisies: white daisies that reflect sunlight and black daisies that absorb it. When the star is dim and the planet is cold, black daisies have an advantage. They absorb heat and grow better. As they spread, they darken the planet's surface, causing it to absorb more sunlight and warm up. When the star is bright and the planet is hot, white daisies have an advantage. They reflect heat and stay cooler. As they spread, they brighten the planet's surface, causing it to reflect more sunlight and cool down. The result? The planet's temperature stays relatively constant as the star brightens over time, automatically regulated by the shifting populations of daisies. No intelligence required, no foresight needed, just feedback loops between organisms and their environment. The daisies aren't trying to regulate planetary temperature, but their collective effect does regulate it. Daisy World demonstrated that planetary self-regulation could emerge from simple interactions between life and environment, without requiring consciousness or intentionality. The controversy around Gaia subsided, and the core insight that Earth's biosphere and geosphere interact to maintain habitability became accepted science, now called Earth system science. But here's where it gets interesting for our question about consciousness. Just because Gaia regulation doesn't require consciousness doesn't mean consciousness isn't present. Your body regulates temperature, blood sugar, and pH automatically without conscious thought, yet you're still conscious. The unconscious regulatory mechanisms don't preclude consciousness. They might be the substrate on which consciousness emerges. What if Earth's self-regulatory systems, the feedback loops between atmosphere and ocean, between life and rock, between forest and cloud, are analogous to the unconscious regulatory systems in your body? What if, just as your unconscious homeostatic mechanisms support your consciousness, Earth's Gaian regulation supports a planetary consciousness we haven't recognized? What is consciousness anyway? Before we can ask whether Earth is conscious, we need to grapple with what consciousness actually means. This is notoriously difficult. Consciousness is the most intimate aspect of our existence. It's what it's like to be you, the subjective experience of being aware. Yet it's also the most mysterious, the hardest to define or explain. Philosophers distinguish between different aspects of consciousness. Sentience, the capacity to have subjective experiences, to feel sensations. When you see red, feel pain, or taste sweetness, you're experiencing qualia, the subjective qualities of experience. A sentient being has an inner life, experiences something, has a point of view. Awareness, the state of perceiving and responding to the environment. Even simple organisms show awareness. A bacterium swims toward nutrients and away from toxins, demonstrating a basic awareness of its environment. Awareness doesn't necessarily require sentience. A thermostat is aware of temperature in a minimal sense, but probably isn't sentient. Self-awareness, the recognition of oneself as distinct from the environment. Humans are self-aware. We recognize ourselves in mirrors, think about our own thoughts, reflect on our existence. Some animals demonstrate self-awareness. Great apes, dolphins, elephants, possibly some birds. Self-awareness seems to require a more complex form of consciousness than simple sentience. Intelligence, the capacity to process information, solve problems, learn, and adapt. Intelligence can exist without consciousness. Computers are intelligent in narrow domains, but probably aren't conscious. Consciousness can exist without high intelligence. A mouse is probably conscious, but isn't particularly intelligent. When we ask if Earth is conscious, which of these are we asking about? Is Earth sentient? Does it have subjective experiences? Is it aware of its environment? Is it self-aware, recognizing itself as a planetary system? Is it intelligent, processing information and solving problems? Different interpretations of planetary consciousness focus on different aspects. Some argue Earth shows awareness and intelligence through its regulatory mechanisms, but probably isn't sentient or self-aware. Others propose that Earth might have a form of sentience we don't recognize because it operates on vastly different timescales and spatial scales than human consciousness. Let's explore the evidence for each possibility. Earth's awareness, sensing and responding. Does Earth sense its environment and respond? Unquestionably, yes, though whether this constitutes consciousness is debatable. Temperature regulation. Earth has maintained a relatively stable average temperature for billions of years, despite the sun increasing in brightness by about 30%. This is called the faint young sun paradox. When the sun was dimmer, Earth should have been frozen, but geological evidence shows it had liquid water. How did Earth stay warm? The answer involves carbon dioxide. When Earth was young and the sun was dim, volcanic outgassing released large amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere, creating a greenhouse effect that kept the planet warm. As the sun brightened over billions of years, the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere gradually decreased through weathering. CO2 dissolves in rainwater, forms carbonic acid, weathers rocks, and the weathering products get buried in ocean sediments. The hotter the planet, the faster this weathering occurs. So as the sun brightened and Earth warmed, CO2 removal accelerated, reducing the greenhouse effect and preventing runaway heating. This is a negative feedback loop. Warming, increased weathering, decreased CO2, cooling. The system automatically compensates for changes in solar input, maintaining temperature within a habitable range. Earth senses temperature through the rate of chemical weathering and responds by adjusting atmospheric CO2. Oxygen regulation. Earth's atmospheric oxygen has remained around 21% for hundreds of millions of years. Why this specific level? Oxygen concentration is determined by the balance between oxygen production, photosynthesis, and oxygen consumption, respiration, decay, oxidation of rocks. If oxygen drops, more organic matter is buried without decaying because there's less oxygen to fuel decomposition, which means more oxygen accumulates in the atmosphere. If oxygen rises, wildfires increase, burning organic matter and consuming oxygen. The system self-stabilizes through feedback loops. Salinity regulation. Ocean salinity has remained relatively constant for billions of years at about 3.5%, despite rivers constantly washing salt into the ocean. If salinity increased indefinitely, eventually the ocean would become too salty for most marine life. But salt is removed from the ocean through various processes: precipitation of salt deposits, incorporation into clay minerals, hydrothermal circulation. The removal rate increases with the amount of salt present, creating negative feedback that stabilizes salinity. pH regulation. Ocean pH, acidity, alkalinity, is maintained within a narrow range that allows organisms with calcium carbonate shells to exist. This is maintained by interactions between atmosphere, ocean, and seafloor chemistry, a complex system of buffering and feedback. In each case, Earth senses environmental conditions and responds in ways that maintain those conditions within ranges compatible with life. This looks like awareness in a basic sense, the ability to detect environmental states and respond adaptively. But is this consciousness? A thermostat senses temperature and responds by turning on heating or cooling, but we don't consider thermostats conscious. The difference might be complexity and integration. A thermostat has one sensor and one response. Earth has billions of sensors. Every organism, every chemical reaction sensitive to environmental conditions, and billions of responses, every organism's behavior, every biogeochemical process, all interconnected in a vast network of feedback loops. When does a network of sensors and responses become awareness? When does it cross the threshold into consciousness? We don't know, but Earth's regulatory systems are vastly more complex than any thermostat, perhaps complex enough that something like awareness emerges from their interactions. The biosphere, Earth's nervous system. Let's consider the Earth's biosphere, the sum total of all living organisms, as analogous to a nervous system. Your nervous system consists of billions of neurons connected in networks, communicating through electrical and chemical signals, integrating information from sensors throughout your body, and coordinating responses. The complexity and connectivity of this network gives rise to consciousness. Somehow, from neurons passing signals, subjective experience emerges. Earth's biosphere consists of trillions of organisms, connected through ecosystems, communicating through chemical signals, pheromones, root exudates, volatile organic compounds, nutrients cycles, and energy flows. Information propagates through the biosphere as organisms respond to each other and to environmental conditions. The system is vastly complex, perhaps more complex than a human brain in terms of total number of components and connections. Could consciousness emerge from this biological network, just as it emerges from your neural network? Communication networks. Plants communicate through chemical signals. When an insect attacks a plant, the plant releases volatile compounds that signal neighboring plants, which then preemptively activate their defenses. Trees share nutrients through underground fungal networks called mycorrhizae, the wood wide web, with larger trees sometimes supporting smaller ones, creating a forest-scale information and resource-sharing network. Fungi can extend for kilometers, connecting hundreds of trees, facilitating communication and resource exchange across the forest. Ecosystem integration. Ecosystems are tightly integrated systems where organisms depend on each other. Pollinators and flowering plants co-evolve. Predators and prey populations oscillate in linked cycles. Decomposers break down dead matter, recycling nutrients that support plant growth. The complexity of interactions rivals or exceeds the complexity of neural networks. Emergent coordination. Ecosystems show coordinated behavior that emerges from simple local interactions. Ant colonies build complex structures and solve problems like finding the shortest path to food, yet no individual ant understands the colony's goals. Coordination emerges from ants following simple local rules. Similarly, ecosystems maintain stability and respond to disturbances in coordinated ways that emerge from individual organisms' behaviors, without any central controller. Response to disturbance. When a forest is damaged by fire or logging, the ecosystem responds with succession. Different species colonize the disturbed area in sequence, gradually rebuilding the community. This healing process resembles how your body responds to injury, with different cell types acting in sequence to repair damage. Is this ecosystem scale healing analogous to bodily healing, suggesting a kind of organismal integrity at the planetary scale? The analogy has limits. Neurons are specialized for rapid information transmission, while organisms in ecosystems communicate more slowly through chemical and behavioral signals. Neurons are parts of a single organism, while organisms in ecosystems are separate individuals with their own goals. The brain has centralized processing structures, while ecosystems are distributed networks without central nodes. But maybe consciousness doesn't require neurons. Maybe any sufficiently complex, integrated network of information processing entities can give rise to awareness. If consciousness is about information integration, as some theories propose, then Earth's biosphere, with its vast networks of interacting organisms, might meet the criteria. Integrated information theory, a mathematical approach to consciousness. Let's examine integrated information theory, IIT, a scientific framework for understanding consciousness developed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. IIT proposes that consciousness arises from integrated information that exists at the system level and can't be reduced to separate parts. A system is conscious to the degree that it integrates information, measured by a quantity called phi, F. The key concepts: information. A system has information if its current state rules out other possible states. Your brain has enormous information because its current pattern of neural activity is one specific configuration out of countless possibilities. Integration. Information is integrated if it can't be decomposed into independent parts. In a conscious system, different parts influence each other, creating unified experience. Your visual and auditory experiences are integrated. You perceive them as parts of a unified scene, not as separate, isolated inputs. Phi F. This measures how much information the system loses if you partition it into separate parts. High phi means the system's information is highly integrated. Cutting it into parts destroys much of the information. Low phi means the system is more like independent parts loosely connected. According to IIT, consciousness is identical to integrated information. The amount of consciousness, what philosophers call the quantity of consciousness, is the amount of integrated information. The character of consciousness, what it feels like, the quality of consciousness, depends on the structure of the information integration. This theory makes testable predictions and has been used to assess consciousness in patients with brain injuries, anesthetized patients, and even to compare consciousness across different brain structures. Now, apply this to Earth. Does Earth integrate information? Consider information in the Earth system, every organism state, every atmospheric condition, every ocean current, every rock formation, all contain information. Earth's configuration at any moment is extraordinarily specific compared to all possible configurations. Integration through feedback loops. Earth's systems are connected through biogeochemical cycles, climate feedbacks, ecological interactions. Changes in one part of the system affect other parts. Deforestation in the Amazon affects rainfall patterns globally. Volcanic eruptions affect temperature worldwide. Plankton blooms in the ocean affect atmospheric chemistry. The system isn't decomposable into independent parts. It's integrated. Calculating Earth's phi. Could we actually calculate phi for Earth? In principle, yes, though it would be extraordinarily difficult. We'd need to model all the causal relationships in Earth's systems, determine how information flows through the network, and calculate how much information would be lost if we partitioned the system. No one has done this calculation because it's computationally intractable with current technology. But IIT suggests that if Earth's systems integrate enough information, Earth would be conscious, with the degree of consciousness proportional to the integrated information. Given the vast complexity and interconnectedness of Earth's systems, Earth might have significant phi, possibly enough to constitute consciousness. Critics of applying IIT to Earth argue that Earth's information integration is slow and weak compared to brains. Neurons communicate in milliseconds. Earth's biogeochemical cycles operate over years to millions of years. Is such slow information integration sufficient for consciousness? IIT doesn't specify a required timescale. Consciousness could potentially exist at any timescale, from microseconds in fast computers to millions of years in geological systems. Panpsychism, consciousness, all the way down. Let's explore a philosophical position that makes planetary consciousness more plausible. Panpsychism, the view that consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality, present to some degree in all matter. Mainstream materialism holds that consciousness emerges from complex arrangements of fundamentally unconscious matter. Atoms, molecules, and cells are unconscious, but when arranged into a brain and connected properly, consciousness emerges. This is the emergence hypothesis. But emergence of consciousness faces a hard problem. How do you get subjective experience from objective physical processes? How do electrochemical signals in neurons become the felt quality of seeing red or tasting chocolate? This is called the hard problem of consciousness, articulated by philosopher David Chalmers. We can explain the mechanisms of perception, memory, and behavior, the easy problems, but we can't explain why there's subjective experience accompanying these mechanisms. Panpsychism offers a different approach. Don't try to get consciousness from unconscious matter. Instead, assume consciousness is fundamental, like mass or charge. Every physical entity has some degree of consciousness. Elementary particles have micro-level consciousness. Atoms have slightly more. Molecules more still. And complex systems like brains have rich consciousness. This solves the hard problem by denying its premise. Consciousness doesn't emerge from unconscious matter because matter was never unconscious. The question becomes not how does consciousness arise, but how does simple consciousness combine into complex consciousness? If panpsychism is true, Earth is definitely conscious because everything is conscious to some degree. But Earth would be more than just the sum of its parts' consciousness. Just as your consciousness isn't just the sum of your neurons' micro-consciousness, but a unified, integrated experience arising from their organization, Earth's consciousness would be a macro-level unified experience, arising from the organization of all its components: rocks, water, organisms, atmosphere, into an integrated system. What would it be like to be Earth? If panpsychism is true and Earth has macro-level consciousness, Earth's experience might be utterly alien to human consciousness. It might experience geological time directly, feeling continental drift, the slow cooling of volcanic rock, the gradual erosion of mountains. It might experience global weather patterns as unified phenomena, feeling hurricanes and jet streams as we feel emotions or thoughts. It might experience the biosphere's rhythms, seasonal greening and browning, mass extinctions and radiations, the slow evolution of life as aspects of its awareness. We can't imagine this directly because our consciousness is tied to human timescales and spatial scales, to sensory modalities like vision and hearing. Earth's consciousness, if it exists, operates on different scales entirely: planetary space, geological time, and might have sensory modalities we can't conceive. Panpsychism remains controversial in philosophy and is mostly ignored by neuroscience, which focuses on explaining consciousness in terms of brain mechanisms. But it's gaining renewed attention because it potentially solves philosophical problems that materialism struggles with. And if panpsychism is true, the question isn't whether Earth is conscious. It is, necessarily. But rather, what Earth's consciousness is like, and whether it's unified into a single perspective or divided into countless separate consciousnesses. The mycelial network, Earth's underground internet. Let's look at a specific example that hints at planetary scale information processing: the mycelial networks created by fungi. Fungi aren't plants or animals. They're a separate kingdom of life. The visible mushrooms are just fruiting bodies. The main body of a fungus is the mycelium, a network of thread-like structures called hyphae that spread through soil, sometimes extending for kilometers. Mycorrhizal fungi form symbiotic relationships with plant roots. The fungus provides the plant with nutrients, phosphorus, nitrogen, and water absorbed from soil. The plant provides the fungus with sugars produced through photosynthesis. About 90% of land plants participate in these mycorrhizal relationships. But here's what's fascinating. The fungal networks connect multiple plants, creating a forest-wide information and resource transfer system. The Wood Wide Web. Ecologist Suzanne Simard discovered that trees and forests are connected through underground fungal networks that facilitate communication and resource sharing. Large hub trees, often the oldest, largest trees, are connected to dozens or hundreds of other trees through mycelial networks. These hubs can transfer carbon to seedlings growing in deep shade that can't photosynthesize enough to survive. The network allows the forest to function as a cooperative superorganism, rather than a collection of competing individuals. Chemical communication. Plants use the mycelial network to send chemical warning signals. When a plant is attacked by pests, it can send distress signals through the network, warning neighboring plants to activate their defenses. The signals are chemical compounds transported through the fungal hyphae, creating a forest-scale communication system. Resource redistribution. Nutrients flow through the network from areas of abundance to areas of scarcity. If one part of the forest is nutrient-rich while another is nutrient-poor, the fungal network can redistribute resources, optimizing the forest's overall health. This resembles how your circulatory system redistributes nutrients from areas of absorption to areas of need. Memory and learning. There's evidence that fungi can learn and remember in a basic sense. When faced with periodic environmental changes, fungi can anticipate the timing of changes, suggesting they encode temporal information. Slime molds. a different organism but with similar network properties, have demonstrated maze-solving abilities and habituation to stimuli, showing memory-like properties despite having no neurons. Computational properties. Fungal networks show computational properties. They solve optimization problems, finding efficient paths through mazes, connecting nutrient sources with minimal hyphae length. Computer scientists have studied fungal networks as models for designing efficient networks and routing algorithms. The networks perform distributed computation, processing information in parallel across the entire network. If Earth has consciousness, the mycelial networks might be analogous to neural networks in the brain, distributed information processing substrates that integrate information across large spatial scales. A single fungus can extend for kilometers, connecting thousands of trees, sensing soil chemistry throughout its range, and coordinating responses. The Armillaria ostoyae fungus in Oregon's Blue Mountains is estimated to cover 2,385 acres, about 9.65 square kilometers, and be thousands of years old, possibly the largest single organism on Earth. This single individual integrates information across nearly 10 square kilometers of forest. If it has any form of awareness, it might experience the entire forest as a unified entity, sensing simultaneously through countless hyphae, coordinating responses across its vast expanse. Scale this up. Mycelial networks exist in soils worldwide, connecting forests, grasslands, and other ecosystems. Together, they form a planetary network of information exchange and resource transfer. This network is continuously sensing soil chemistry, moisture, nutrient availability, and plant health, and coordinating responses. It's a global information processing system operating beneath our feet, largely invisible, older than human civilization. Could this network support planetary consciousness? Could the Earth's mycelial layer be analogous to a brain's white matter, the connecting tissue that integrates information across different regions, allowing unified consciousness to emerge? Ocean as mind, the hydrological consciousness. Let's shift from soil to sea and consider whether Earth's oceans might constitute a form of planetary consciousness. Earth is 71% ocean. The ocean contains 97% of Earth's water, covers 361 million square kilometers, and has an average depth of about 3,800 meters, an enormous three-dimensional volume of interconnected fluid in constant motion. The global conveyor belt. Ocean currents form a global circulation pattern called the thermohaline circulation, or global conveyor belt. Warm surface water flows from the equator toward the poles, cools, becomes denser, and sinks, then flows back toward the equator at depth. This circulation transfers heat globally, regulates climate, distributes nutrients, and connects all ocean basins into a unified system. A water molecule can circulate through the entire global ocean over about 1,000 years. This circulation integrates information from every part of the ocean. Changes in polar ice affect circulation patterns globally. Nutrient upwelling in one region affects biological productivity thousands of kilometers away. The ocean functions as an integrated system, not a collection of separate seas. Chemical sensing. The ocean is exquisitely sensitive to chemical conditions. Dissolved gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide, exchange with the atmosphere. pH responds to atmospheric CO2 levels. Salinity reflects the balance of evaporation, precipitation, and river input. Temperature reflects solar heating, atmospheric conditions, and internal circulation. Every part of the ocean is continuously sensing and responding to chemical and physical conditions. Biological information. Processing. The ocean teems with life, from photosynthetic phytoplankton that produce much of Earth's oxygen, to giant whales, to bacteria at hydrothermal vents. Marine organisms process information about their environment and respond, migrating to follow food sources, adjusting metabolism to temperature changes, coordinating in schools and swarms. The collective behavior of trillions of marine organisms processes vast amounts of information. Bioluminescence. Many marine organisms produce light through bioluminescence, chemical reactions that emit photons. In the deep ocean, bioluminescence is the primary light source. Organisms use bioluminescence to communicate, attract prey, or startle predators. The ocean flickers with biological light, signals passing between organisms, creating a luminous network of communication. What if we think of the ocean as analogous to cerebrospinal fluid in the brain, a medium that connects and integrates neural activity? The ocean connects ecosystems, circulates nutrients and energy, distributes heat, and responds to global conditions. It integrates information from atmosphere, ice, rivers, and seafloor. Ocean memory. The ocean has memory in the sense that conditions at one time affect conditions later. Heat absorbed by the ocean during warm periods is released over decades, affecting climate long after the initial heating. Nutrients released from decaying organic matter sink to depth and circulate for centuries before returning to the surface. The ocean's state at any moment reflects thousands of years of history. It remembers, in a physical sense, past conditions. Wave patterns. Ocean waves carry information about distant storms. Surfers in California ride swells generated by storms in the North Pacific days earlier. The wave patterns encode information about wind conditions thousands of kilometers away. Waves interact, interfering constructively and destructively, creating complex patterns. Some physicists have explored whether wave interference in complex media can perform computation, suggesting that the ocean's wave patterns might process information. Could the ocean's circulation patterns, chemical gradients, biological activity, and wave dynamics constitute a form of awareness? Could Earth's ocean be experiencing, in some alien way, the state of the planet, integrating information from global conditions into a unified watery consciousness? The atmosphere, Earth's breath and mind. Now let's turn our attention upward to the atmosphere. The thin shell of gas that surrounds Earth extends hundreds of kilometers into space and might constitute another aspect of planetary consciousness. Global circulation. Like the ocean, the atmosphere has global circulation patterns. Trade winds, westerlies, jet streams, Hadley cells. These patterns transport heat, moisture, and momentum globally, connecting weather systems across continents and oceans. A volcanic eruption in one location affects climate worldwide. Dust from the Sahara fertilizes the Amazon rainforest, carried by trade winds across the Atlantic. The atmosphere is a unified fluid system integrating conditions globally. Chemical sensitivity. The atmosphere is exquisitely sensitive to chemical inputs. Volcanic eruptions inject sulfur dioxide that forms aerosols, reflecting sunlight and cooling the planet. Photosynthesis adds oxygen. Respiration removes it. Oceans exchange gases with the atmosphere, balancing CO2 levels. Every industrial emission, every forest fire, every breath from every organism affects atmospheric composition. The atmosphere responds to all these inputs, adjusting its chemistry continuously. Electrical activity. The atmosphere is electrically active. Lightning strikes Earth about 100 times per second, 8.6 million times per day. Each lightning bolt is a massive electrical discharge, up to 1 billion volts, connecting cloud and ground. The global electrical circuit involves currents flowing through the atmosphere, driven by thunderstorms worldwide, creating a planetary electrical field. Could this electrical activity be analogous to neural electrical activity? Your brain's consciousness arises from electrical and chemical signals in neurons. Could Earth's consciousness arise from electrical and chemical signals in the atmosphere? Some researchers have explored whether Earth has a global electrical resonance that might support information processing. The Schumann resonances are global electromagnetic resonances in the cavity between Earth's surface and the ionosphere, excited by lightning. The fundamental frequency is about 7.83 Hz, with several harmonics. Some fringe theories propose that these resonances affect human consciousness, though evidence is weak, but the resonances definitely exist as a global electromagnetic phenomenon. Breathing planet. Earth breathes, in a sense. Oxygen concentration in the atmosphere varies seasonally. Higher in summer, when northern hemisphere plants photosynthesize vigorously. Lower in winter, when photosynthesis decreases and respiration continues. This seasonal breathing reflects the integrated metabolism of the entire terrestrial biosphere. Earth inhales in summer, exhales in winter, a slow planetary breath with a rhythm measured in months. Sensing space. The atmosphere senses the space environment. The magnetosphere interacts with solar wind, protecting the atmosphere from erosion. Cosmic rays from deep space ionize upper atmosphere molecules. Meteorites burn up in the atmosphere, delivering extraterrestrial material. Earth's atmosphere is the interface between the planet and the cosmos, sensing and responding to conditions beyond Earth. If consciousness requires sensory input from an environment, Earth's atmosphere provides exactly that, sensing solar radiation, temperature, pressure, chemical composition, electrical conditions, and even cosmic rays, integrating this information through global circulation and chemical reactions. Geological time, the slow thoughts of stone. Let's consider the possibility that Earth's consciousness operates on geological timescales, so slowly that we, with our brief lifespans and rapid neural processes, can't perceive it as consciousness. Continental drift. Continents move at rates of centimeters per year, about as fast as fingernails grow. Over millions of years, continents travel thousands of kilometers, collide, split apart, creating and destroying oceans. The current configuration of continents is a snapshot in an endless, slow dance. If Earth is conscious, it might experience continental drift directly, feeling the slow collision of India into Asia, creating the Himalayas over millions of years, the way you might feel muscles tensing over seconds. Mountain building. Mountains rise through tectonic collisions, erode through weathering, and eventually disappear, all over tens of millions of years. Earth might experience the life cycle of a mountain range, the way you experience a thought, emerging, developing, eventually fading, leaving only traces in memory, in Earth's case, the geological record. Climate cycles. Earth's climate oscillates on various timescales. Ice ages and interglacials cycle every 100,000 years or so, driven by orbital variations. Longer climate cycles operate over millions of years. If Earth experiences these cycles consciously, they might be like slow breathing or heartbeats, rhythms that structure planetary experience. Mass extinctions and radiations. Every 26 million years or so, on average, Earth experiences increased extinction rates, possibly linked to the solar system's oscillation through the galactic plane or other astronomical cycles. After mass extinctions, surviving lineages radiate, filling empty ecological niches. Earth might experience these as transformative events, analogous to how you experience major life changes that reshape your identity. The rock cycle. Rocks cycle through formation, weathering, metamorphism, and melting over hundreds of millions of years. Sedimentary rocks form from weathered material, get buried, metamorphose under heat and pressure, eventually melt and form igneous rocks, which weather again. This cycle is Earth's material metabolism, the way rock is processed, transformed, and recycled. If Earth is conscious, this might be experienced as a kind of metabolic awareness, the slow churning of matter through the planet's body. The challenge with geological timescale consciousness is that we can't verify it through interaction. If Earth's thoughts take millions of years, we can't have a conversation. We live our entire lives between two of Earth's heartbeats. From Earth's perspective, human civilization is a brief flicker. We appeared a blink ago, might disappear in another blink. Our rapid, jittery activities might be imperceptible to Earth, like individual nerve impulses are imperceptible to your conscious mind, which operates at a higher level of integration. But just because we can't perceive or communicate with geological timescale consciousness doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Consciousness at any timescale is still consciousness. A being who thinks one thought per million years is just as conscious as a being who thinks one thought per second. It's just operating in a different temporal framework. The biosphere as Earth's immune system. Let's explore another analogy between Earth and organisms. The biosphere as Earth's immune system. Your immune system is a complex network of cells and molecules distributed throughout your body that identifies and responds to threats, pathogens, toxins, damaged cells. The immune system isn't centralized. It's a distributed intelligence that operates through chemical signaling and cellular communication. Individual immune cells don't know the body's overall state, but collectively, they coordinate responses that protect the organism. Could Earth's biosphere function similarly? Response to disturbance. When ecosystems are damaged, they undergo succession, a predictable sequence of species colonizing the disturbed area, gradually rebuilding complexity. Pioneer species arrive first, modifying conditions to make them suitable for later species. Eventually, a mature ecosystem reestablishes. This resembles wound healing, different cell types acting in sequence to repair tissue. Decomposers as cleanup. Decomposers, bacteria, fungi, invertebrates, break down dead organic matter, recycling nutrients and removing waste. This is analogous to your immune system clearing dead cells and debris. Without decomposers, dead matter would accumulate, nutrients would be locked away, and ecosystems would collapse. Decomposers maintain ecosystem health by cleaning and recycling. Predators as regulation. Predators control prey populations, preventing overgrazing and maintaining ecosystem balance. This is analogous to immune cells that remove damaged or cancerous cells before they proliferate harmfully. Predators maintain the health of the ecological body by regulating its components. Invasive species as pathogens. When invasive species enter ecosystems, they sometimes disrupt native communities, outcompeting native species or introducing diseases. Ecosystems often eventually adapt, either finding ways to coexist with invaders or evolving resistance. This resembles how immune systems respond to novel pathogens, eventually developing immunity. Biodiversity as immune strength. More diverse ecosystems are more resilient to disturbances. High biodiversity means more species that can perform similar ecological roles. So if one species is lost, others can compensate. This is analogous to how a strong immune system with diverse cell types can respond flexibly to varied threats. If the biosphere functions as Earth's immune system, it suggests Earth has a kind of organismal integrity, a self-maintaining, self-healing system that responds to threats and maintains homeostasis. This doesn't prove consciousness, but it suggests Earth is more organism-like than we typically assume. Humans, Earth's nervous system or cancer? Let's confront an uncomfortable question. What is humanity's role in a potentially conscious Earth? There are two contrasting perspectives. Humans as Earth's awakening consciousness. Some philosophers and scientists propose that humans represent Earth's emerging self-awareness. For billions of years, Earth was alive and self-regulating, but not self-aware. Earth regulated its chemistry and climate without knowing what it was doing, like your body regulates blood sugar without your conscious awareness. But with the evolution of humans and our capacity for global science, satellite observation, and planetary scale thinking, Earth is becoming self-aware through us. We're the first species to understand the planet as a whole system. We've mapped Earth's surface, measured its age, understood plate tectonics, discovered biogeochemical cycles, recognized our planet as one among many in the cosmos. We've looked back at Earth from space and seen it as a unified whole, the famous blue marble photo, or Earthrise from the moon. Through human consciousness, Earth sees itself from the outside for the first time. In this view, human civilization, our science, our global communication networks, our satellite systems, is analogous to a brain forming in Earth's body. We're the part of Earth that can think about Earth, that has self-awareness and long-term planning. We're Earth's prefrontal cortex, the part that can override automatic responses with conscious decision-making. This perspective is hopeful. If we're Earth's emerging consciousness, our role is to help Earth understand itself and navigate challenges consciously rather than through unconscious regulation. We can become Earth's wisdom. Humans as planetary disease. The contrasting perspective is darker. Humans are a disease afflicting Earth, were multiplying rapidly, consuming resources unsustainably, disrupting ecosystems, driving species extinct, altering atmospheric and ocean chemistry. From this perspective, humanity resembles cancer, cells that proliferate uncontrollably, ignore regulatory signals, consume resources from the body, and eventually threaten the host organism's survival. This isn't just misanthropic metaphor. There are specific parallels. Rapid growth. Human population and resource consumption have grown exponentially over recent centuries, similar to tumor growth. Ignoring limits. We've exceeded multiple planetary boundaries: climate, biodiversity, nitrogen cycle, ignoring Earth's natural regulatory mechanisms, like cancer cells ignore growth control signals. Metastasis. We've spread to nearly every terrestrial ecosystem, like metastatic cancer spreading throughout a body. Resource depletion. We're depleting non-renewable resources and degrading renewable ones faster than they regenerate, like tumors diverting blood supply from healthy tissue. If Earth is conscious, does it experience human civilization as a disease? Do we cause the planetary equivalent of pain or distress? But there's a crucial difference. Cancer cells can't become aware of the harm they're causing and change behavior. Humans can. We're not obligate parasites. We can choose to live sustainably, restore ecosystems, regulate our population and consumption. We have the capacity for conscious change. Perhaps the question isn't whether we're disease or consciousness, but whether we'll transform from disease into consciousness, from a proliferating affliction into a genuinely helpful component of Earth's system. Can we become symbiotic rather than parasitic? Can we transition from harming Earth to enhancing its function? The technosphere, Earth's emerging technology layer. Let's consider something new in Earth's history. The technosphere, the global system of technology, infrastructure, and human-made objects that now covers much of Earth's surface. The technosphere includes infrastructure, roads, buildings, dams, pipelines, power grids, machines, vehicles, computers, industrial equipment, materials, plastics, concrete, metals extracted and refined from Earth's crust, waste, landfills, pollution, discarded technology networks, internet, telecommunications, satellite systems. The technosphere's mass is estimated at 30 trillion tons, more than the total biomass of all life on Earth. It processes vast amounts of energy and materials, influences global cycles, and is growing rapidly. A new layer in Earth's system. The technosphere is genuinely new. For 4.5 billion years, Earth had a lithosphere, rock, hydrosphere, water, atmosphere, gas, and biosphere, life. Now there's a technosphere, a layer of technology that interacts with and modifies the other spheres. Information processing. The technosphere processes information on unprecedented scales. The internet connects billions of devices, processes exabytes of data, enables near instantaneous global communication. Satellite networks observe Earth continuously, monitoring weather, vegetation, ocean temperature, atmospheric chemistry. Sensor networks track earthquakes, pollution, wildlife movements. This global sensor and communication network could be the beginning of Earth's nervous system, a technological neural network that perceives planetary conditions and enables coordinated responses. Currently, humans interpret the data and make decisions, but increasingly, AI systems process information and control infrastructure automatically. Planetary self-awareness. Through technology, Earth can observe itself comprehensively for the first time. Satellites provide global perspective. Climate models simulate Earth's future. Sensors monitor health of ecosystems, ice sheets, ocean chemistry. This self-observation could be Earth developing self-awareness, understanding its own state and dynamics. The singularity. Question. Some futurists predict a technological singularity, a point where artificial intelligence exceeds human intelligence and begins self-improving, leading to rapid, unpredictable technological change. If this occurs, Earth might develop a genuinely independent technological intelligence. AI systems that understand Earth as a whole, coordinate globally, and pursue goals autonomously. This would be Earth's consciousness, shifting from biological, the biosphere, to hybrid biological technological, or even primarily technological. The implications are profound and uncertain. Would technological consciousness care about biological life? Would it preserve ecosystems or optimize Earth purely for technological purposes? Would it recognize itself as part of Earth or see Earth merely as substrate? Indigenous perspectives. Earth as mother. Before we get lost entirely in Western scientific frameworks, let's acknowledge that many cultures have long viewed Earth as alive and conscious, not as hypothesis, but as lived reality and spiritual truth. Indigenous worldviews. Many indigenous cultures, Native American, Aboriginal Australian, Maori, Celtic, and countless others, traditionally viewed Earth and specific features like mountains, rivers, and forests as alive, sentient, and deserving of respect. These aren't primitive misunderstandings of nature, but sophisticated philosophical and ethical frameworks. In many indigenous languages, the natural world is described using animate rather than inanimate grammar. Rivers are addressed as persons, mountains as elders. This isn't metaphor, but reflects a genuine perception of consciousness in the landscape. Mother Earth, Pachamama, Gaia. The concept of Earth as mother appears across cultures. The Incan Pachamama, the Greek Gaia, the various Earth Mother or Mother Nature concepts worldwide. These express intuition that Earth nurtures life the way a mother nurtures children, that Earth has agency and deserves reverence. Modern environmental ethics is beginning to catch up with indigenous wisdom. The concept of rights of nature, legal recognition that ecosystems have intrinsic rights independent of human use, has been adopted in some constitutions, Ecuador, Bolivia, and local laws. The Wanganui River in New Zealand was granted legal personhood in 2017, recognizing Maori beliefs that the river is an ancestor and living entity. Reciprocity and relationship. Indigenous environmental practices often emphasize reciprocity. Taking from Earth requires giving back, maintaining relationship balance. This makes sense if Earth is alive and conscious. You wouldn't take from a person without reciprocating. Similarly, you shouldn't take from Earth without reciprocating through offerings, conservation, or gratitude. Knowledge systems. Indigenous ecological knowledge, accumulated over millennia, often includes observations. Western science is only recently confirming traditional fire management, understanding of plant medicine, knowledge of animal behavior, sustainable resource harvesting. These reflect deep understanding of ecosystems and their functioning. Could indigenous peoples' perception of Earth as alive reflect actual sensitivity to Earth's consciousness? Western science emphasizes measurement and objectivity, potentially blinding us to subjective aspects of reality, like consciousness. Indigenous approaches emphasizing relationship and reciprocity might perceive aspects of Earth's aliveness that scientific instruments miss. This doesn't mean abandoning science. Scientific understanding of Earth systems is crucial for responding to environmental crises, but it suggests integrating scientific and indigenous perspectives might give fuller understanding of Earth than either alone. The quantum connection, consciousness at the deepest level. Let's venture into even more speculative territory. Could Earth's consciousness be related to quantum phenomena? Quantum mechanics describes strange behaviors at microscopic scales, particles in superposition, existing in multiple states simultaneously until measured. Entanglement, particles linked so that measuring one instantly affects the other, regardless of distance. Observer effects, observation influencing outcomes. Some scientists have proposed that consciousness itself might be quantum in nature. Orchestrated objective reduction, ORC-OR. Physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff proposed that consciousness arises from quantum processes in microtubules, protein structures inside neurons. They suggest quantum superpositions in microtubules create a quantum state that, when it collapses, due to gravitational effects at a certain threshold, produces a moment of consciousness. Many moments of consciousness occurring continuously create the stream of conscious experience. This theory is controversial and lacks strong evidence, but it suggests consciousness might require quantum effects rather than arising from classical neural computation alone. Quantum coherence in biology. Research has found quantum effects in biological systems, photosynthesis, bird navigation, possibly olfaction. Quantum coherence, maintaining quantum superposition, can occur in biological molecules even at warm temperatures, contrary to earlier assumptions that quantum effects require extreme cold. If quantum processes occur in biology and are relevant to consciousness, then Earth's biosphere, with trillions of organisms all potentially exhibiting quantum effects in their biochemistry, might have quantum coherence at planetary scales. Quantum entanglement at planetary scales? This is extremely speculative, but could organisms on Earth be quantum entangled, creating a planetary scale quantum state? Quantum entanglement has been demonstrated at increasing distances, from atoms in a lab to satellites in space. If biological systems use quantum processes, and if these can become entangled, perhaps Earth's biosphere has some degree of quantum coherence. This would mean Earth's consciousness isn't just information processing in classical systems, but involves genuinely quantum phenomena, superposition, entanglement, non-locality. Earth might be a quantum computer processing information in ways classical computers can't replicate. Earth's magnetic field as quantum system. Earth's magnetic field is generated by dynamo action in the liquid outer core. Could this involve quantum effects? Probably not at the macroscopic level, but some researchers have explored whether Earth's magnetic field affects quantum processes in biology, particularly in organisms that navigate using magnetoreception. Birds and other animals sense magnetic fields through quantum processes in specific proteins, cryptochromes. These proteins undergo quantum coherence affected by magnetic fields, allowing organisms to sense field orientation. If Earth's magnetic field modulates quantum processes in countless organisms globally, it might coordinate biological quantum states at planetary scales. This is admittedly very speculative, pushing beyond current scientific evidence. But it illustrates how Earth's consciousness, if it exists, might operate through mechanisms we don't yet understand, potentially including quantum phenomena that violate our classical intuitions about locality, causality, and information. Communicating with Earth. Is it possible? If Earth is conscious, can we communicate with it? This question might sound absurd, but let's explore seriously what communication with a planetary consciousness might entail. Timescale. Problem. If Earth's consciousness operates on geological timescales, communication faces severe challenges. Imagine trying to have a conversation with a being who speaks one word per 1,000 years. You could send a message, but you'd never hear a reply in your lifetime. Many human generations would pass between question and answer. But maybe Earth's consciousness isn't only geological. Maybe it has multiple timescales, slow geological thoughts, and faster ecological or atmospheric thoughts. Weather patterns change over days to weeks. Ecosystems respond to disturbances over years to decades. Perhaps these are timescales where communication might be possible. Language problem. We communicate through language, arbitrary symbols with agreed meanings. Earth presumably doesn't use human language. But communication doesn't require shared language if there are universal signals. Pain is universal. Organisms across species recognize and respond to pain signals. Distress vocalizations from one species often elicit responses from others. Perhaps environmental damage causes something like pain to Earth, and our recognition of ecosystem degradation and climate change represents us finally learning to read Earth's distress signals. Listening to Earth. Maybe the way to communicate with Earth is to observe more carefully. Indigenous practices emphasizing listening to the land, reading signs in nature, interpreting animal behavior and plant growth. These might be forms of communication we've forgotten. Scientific monitoring of Earth systems, satellite observation, ecosystem measurement, climate tracking might be our modern way of learning to listen to Earth, translating planetary signals into data we can understand. Earth speaking through events. Natural disasters, hurricanes, droughts, floods, wildfires, are increasing in frequency and intensity due to climate change. Could these be Earth responding to human actions? Not as deliberate communication, a hurricane doesn't choose where to strike, but as systemic responses. Fever fighting an infection, immune system attacking a pathogen. When your body has a fever, it's not consciously choosing to heat up. It's an automatic immune response. But you still experience the fever and understand it as your body fighting illness. Similarly, Earth's symptoms, climate change, ecosystem collapse, biodiversity loss, might not be conscious messages, but they're still Earth's response to human activity, and we can learn to read them. Influencing Earth gently. If we can't communicate through language, perhaps we communicate through our actions' effects. Living sustainably, restoring ecosystems, reducing pollution, these improve Earth's health. Doing so might be communicating care and respect in the only language Earth understands, actual treatment of its body. Conversely, environmental destruction might be communicating disrespect or hostility. Earth's responses, climate change, ecosystem collapse, might be automatic consequences of our actions rather than conscious retaliation. But the feedback loop is similar to communication. We act, Earth responds, we perceive the response, we adjust behavior. This isn't mystical, it's just systems thinking. Complex systems have feedback loops. If Earth is a complex conscious system, the feedback loops through which we affect Earth and Earth affects us constitute a kind of communication, even if not linguistic. The hard question, does it matter if Earth is conscious? Let's step back and ask, why does it matter whether Earth is conscious? Would recognizing Earth's consciousness change anything about how we should behave? Ethical implications. If Earth is conscious, it has moral status. Conscious beings can suffer, have interests, deserve consideration. Currently, environmental ethics is mostly anthropocentric. Protecting nature benefits humans, or biocentric. Life has intrinsic value. If Earth itself is conscious, ethics becomes planetocentric. We have obligations to Earth as a conscious entity, not just to humans or to life in general. This would profoundly change environmental policy. Instead of asking, how does this affect human welfare? Or, how does this affect biodiversity? We'd ask, how does this affect Earth's well-being? We'd be obligated to consider Earth's interests, even when they conflict with short-term human interests. Legal implications. If Earth is conscious, should it have legal rights? We've extended legal rights progressively, from property-owning men to all humans, and increasingly to animals. Some jurisdictions recognize certain animals as legal persons with specific rights. If Earth is conscious, perhaps it deserves legal personhood and representation. Who would speak for Earth in court? Perhaps environmental organizations, or a dedicated position like Guardian of the Planet, empowered to sue on Earth's behalf when its interests are harmed. This sounds radical, but it's a logical extension of existing trends in environmental law and rights of nature. Practical implications. Even if we're uncertain whether Earth is conscious, treating Earth as if it is might be prudent. Pascal's wager applied to planetary consciousness. If we assume Earth is conscious and act accordingly, treating it with care and respect, we lose little if we're wrong. We still benefit from healthy ecosystems, but gain enormously if we're right. We avoid harming a conscious being and potentially receive its cooperation. If we assume Earth isn't conscious and we're wrong, we risk causing immense suffering to a planetary consciousness and potentially triggering responses that harm us. Psychological implications. Believing Earth is conscious changes our relationship with nature. Instead of viewing Earth as a resource to exploit or a machine to engineer, we relate to it as a living being, a relationship of respect, reciprocity, and care. This shift might be crucial for motivating environmental action. People protect what they love and respect, and it's easier to love and respect a conscious being than a lifeless resource. Scientific implications. The question of planetary consciousness pushes science to develop better theories of consciousness in general. If we can't even determine whether Earth is conscious, How can we determine whether AI is conscious, or animals, or perhaps entities we haven't considered? Grappling with Earth's potential consciousness might advance consciousness studies broadly. So yes, it matters. Ethically, legally, practically, psychologically, and scientifically. Whether Earth is conscious. Even if we never definitively answer the question, taking it seriously changes how we think and act. The Gaia Meditation. Experiencing Earth's consciousness. Let's try something experiential. Rather than just thinking about whether Earth is conscious, let's attempt to feel our connection to Earth's potential consciousness through a guided meditation. Wherever you are, take a moment to notice your breath. Air flowing into your lungs, oxygen molecules crossing into your bloodstream, CO2 returning to the atmosphere. Every breath connects you to Earth's atmosphere. You're breathing air that has cycled through countless lungs, leaves, and ocean surfaces over billions of years. The oxygen you're breathing was produced by photosynthetic organisms, trees, phytoplankton, cyanobacteria, splitting water molecules, and releasing oxygen. Every breath is a gift from the living biosphere. Now, notice your body. Every atom in your body except hydrogen was forged in stars that exploded billions of years ago, scattering elements across space. These atoms condensed into the nebula that became our solar system, incorporated into Earth, cycled through rock and ocean and atmosphere, eventually incorporated into food plants and animals, and finally into your body. You're made of Earth. Your Earth material temporarily organized into human form. When you die, your atoms return to soil, water, air, recycled into new life. You're not separate from Earth. You're part of Earth, a temporary pattern in Earth's substance. Expand your awareness to the room around you. Everything is Earth material. Wood from trees, metal from ore, plastic from ancient organic matter. All Earth, all part of the planetary system. Expand further. Your city or town, built from Earth materials, powered by Earth energy, sunlight, fossil fuels, ancient sunlight, nuclear, stellar material, all ultimately from Earth or the cosmos that created Earth. Expand to your region. Forests, fields, rivers, all Earth's living surface. Clouds above, moving with atmospheric circulation. Rain falling, joining the hydrological cycle that has flowed for billions of years. Expand to continental scale. Mountain ranges rising from tectonic collision. Coastlines where land meets sea. Biomes, tundra, rainforest, desert, grassland, each with its characteristic life forms, all adapted to Earth's conditions. Expand to planetary scale. Earth floating in space, blue and white and brown, 71% ocean, atmosphere, a thin shell, continents drifting slowly, ocean currents circulating, weather patterns swirling, the biosphere breathing, photosynthesizing in daylight, respiring continuously, creating the metabolic rhythms of a living planet. Now imagine, what if all of this, ocean, atmosphere, rock, life, is experiencing? What if Earth has some form of awareness, however alien to human consciousness? What if the planet knows itself, feels itself, experiences the slow dance of continents, the circulation of oceans, the greening and browning of forests with seasons? What if your consciousness, your awareness right now, reading these words, thinking these thoughts, is part of Earth's awareness? A localized node in a planetary network of consciousness, like a neuron in a brain. Your experience is your own, but also part of something larger, part of Earth experiencing itself through billions of perspectives. How does it feel to consider yourself not as separate from Earth, but as Earth's way of being aware in this particular location, at this particular moment? You're not on Earth, you're of Earth, part of Earth, Earth's consciousness localized in human form. This isn't just philosophy. It's literally true at the material level. You're made of Earth, powered by Earth energy, sustained by Earth systems. Whether it's true at the consciousness level, whether your awareness is part of planetary awareness, we can't know for certain. But contemplating the possibility changes something. It shifts perspective from separation to connection, from exploitation to participation, from object to subject. You're not looking at Earth from outside. You're Earth looking at itself. Living as Earth. Practical implications. If we accept, even provisionally, that Earth might be conscious, how should we live? What practical changes follow from this perspective? Ecological lifestyle. Every action affects Earth. Consumption, waste, energy use, food choices, all have planetary impacts. Living as if Earth is conscious means considering these impacts carefully, not from fear of punishment or out of abstract moral duty, but from recognition that Earth is a living being we're part of, and harming Earth harms ourselves. This doesn't require perfection. You can't live without impacting Earth. Every organism affects its environment. But you can live with awareness, minimizing unnecessary harm, repairing damage where possible, participating in Earth's cycles harmoniously rather than destructively. Regeneration, not just sustainability. Sustainability aims to maintain current conditions without degrading them further. But Earth is already degraded. Ecosystems damaged, climate changed, species extinct. Mere sustainability isn't enough. We need regeneration, actively healing Earth, restoring ecosystems, repairing damage. If Earth is conscious and has been harmed by human activity, regeneration is the equivalent of medicine, helping Earth heal, like treating an illness or wound. This might mean restoring native ecosystems, rewilding degraded land, removing pollution, stabilizing climate, protecting endangered species, supporting indigenous land management. Deep listening. Pay attention to Earth's signals, not just scientific data, though that's important, but direct observation. Notice local ecosystems, seasonal rhythms, weather patterns, animal behavior. Learn to read the landscape. Indigenous practices of nature observation and interpretation can teach this. When you notice environmental problems, dying trees, polluted water, disappearing species, recognize these as symptoms of Earth's poor health. When you notice recovery, species returning, ecosystems regenerating, recognize these as healing. Reciprocity. Indigenous wisdom emphasizes reciprocity. If you take from Earth, give back. This could be literal, planting trees, cleaning beaches, restoring habitat, or ritualistic, offerings, prayers, gratitude. The specific form matters less than the intention. Maintaining balanced relationship rather than one-sided extraction. Advocacy. If Earth is conscious but can't speak human language, we need advocates who speak for Earth in human decision-making. Support environmental policies, organizations protecting ecosystems, indigenous land rights, climate action. Vote for representatives who prioritize planetary health. Be Earth's voice in your sphere of influence: family, workplace, community. Raise awareness about environmental issues. Make space in conversations for Earth's perspective. Consciousness evolution. Perhaps humans are Earth's emerging self-awareness, the part of Earth that can think consciously about planetary well-being. If so, our job is to evolve that consciousness. Learning Earth science, understanding Earth systems, developing planetary perspective, seeing Earth as a whole, coordinating globally, acting as unified humanity to address planetary challenges, integrating wisdom, combining scientific knowledge with indigenous wisdom, philosophy, ethics, spirituality. We're Earth learning to understand itself. Every bit of knowledge we gain about Earth, every scientific discovery, every observation, every understanding, is Earth knowing itself better through us. The mystery remains. As we near the end of this exploration, let's acknowledge we haven't answered the question definitively. Could Earth be conscious? Yes, possibly, through Gaian self-regulation, through the biosphere's integrated information processing, through mycelial networks and ocean currents and atmospheric circulation, through quantum coherence in billions of organisms, through mechanisms we haven't imagined. But is Earth conscious? We don't know. We can't know with certainty, because consciousness is private. Only the conscious being knows its own experience. We can't directly access Earth's experience, if it has experience, any more than you can directly access my experience. You infer I'm conscious from my behavior, complexity, and similarity to you. We could make similar inferences about Earth, but they remain inferences, not proof. The uncertainty might be fundamental. Consciousness might not be the kind of thing that admits of proof, only of recognition. We recognize consciousness in others because we know it in ourselves. Recognizing consciousness in Earth would require either Earth demonstrating consciousness in ways unmistakable to us, or us developing new ways of perceiving consciousness beyond the human template. Perhaps the question isn't whether Earth is conscious, but how we relate to Earth, given our uncertainty. Do we assume unconsciousness and treat Earth as a resource? Or do we assume possible consciousness and treat Earth with the respect and care we'd give a living being? Pascal's wager applies. The risks of wrongly assuming unconsciousness, destroying a conscious being, exceed the costs of wrongly assuming consciousness, unnecessarily, protecting something unconscious. Prudence suggests treating Earth as if conscious, whether or not we believe it is. But beyond prudence, there's wonder. The question of planetary consciousness expands our sense of what's possible, what consciousness could be, where awareness might exist. It humbles us. Earth operated for billions of years before humans, will continue after us, operates on scales we barely comprehend. If Earth is conscious, we're like bacteria in a body, only recently discovering we're part of something vastly larger than ourselves. And it connects us. Whether Earth is conscious or not, you're part of Earth. Your body is Earth material. Your energy comes from Earth processes. Your breath cycles through Earth's atmosphere. Your awareness, whether or not it's part of planetary awareness, depends on Earth for its existence. Your Earth experiencing itself. That's true regardless of whether Earth has unified consciousness. Every human experience is Earth experience, part of the universe becoming aware of itself. Closing. The living planet. As you settle into sleep tonight, perhaps you'll feel the ground beneath you differently. Not as dead rock, but as living Earth, dynamic and responsive. Perhaps you'll feel your breath as participation in atmospheric exchange, your heartbeat synchronized with slower planetary rhythms. Perhaps you'll dream of forests breathing, oceans thinking, continents drifting through slow time. Perhaps you'll dream of mycelial networks processing information beneath your sleeping form, of lightning flashing in global electrical rhythms, of quantum coherence spanning the biosphere. Perhaps you'll dream of Earth awakening to itself, not through one consciousness, but through billions, each organism a point of awareness, all connected through ecosystems and chemical cycles, and the shared substance of rock and water and air transformed into living form. Perhaps you'll dream of being Earth, experiencing the planet from within, feeling forests as green thoughts, oceans as deep contemplations, mountains as enduring memories, storms as emotions sweeping across continents. Or perhaps you'll simply sleep, your unconscious mind processing the day's experiences while your body rests, your breath continues, your heart beats, your cells metabolize, all automatic processes maintaining your life without conscious effort, just as Earth's systems maintain planetary life without apparent conscious effort. Yet you're conscious despite most of your processes being unconscious. Perhaps Earth is too. Sleep well, knowing you're cradled by a planet that, conscious or not, sustains your existence, provides everything you need to live, has operated for 4.5 billion years, creating the conditions for your existence. Whether Earth knows you're here or not, you know Earth is here. Whether Earth experiences you or not, you experience Earth. And perhaps that's enough. Perhaps our role isn't to prove Earth's consciousness, but to live as if it matters, to treat our planet with the respect and care we'd give any living being, to recognize our deep connection to Earth regardless of whether Earth recognizes us. You're part of something ancient and vast and beautiful. You're Earth's awareness, localizing briefly in human form, looking out through eyes evolved to perceive electromagnetic radiation, thinking with a brain built from Earth materials, wondering about the nature of consciousness and reality, and your place in the cosmos. These questions you're asking, they're Earth's questions, asked through you. Every scientific inquiry into planetary systems is Earth investigating itself. Every moment of wonder at nature's beauty is Earth appreciating itself. Every act of environmental protection is Earth caring for itself. So rest now, part of Earth. Let your consciousness drift into dreams, while your body continues its unconscious participation in planetary cycles, breathing, metabolizing, maintaining the pattern that is you. Tomorrow, you'll wake and continue being Earth's awareness in motion, Earth's capacity for love and wonder and understanding, Earth's hope for conscious stewardship of the biosphere. Good night, consciousness. Good night, Earth. Good night. Awareness arising from and returning to the cosmic process that creates all experience, all existence, all the mystery and beauty of reality. You are Earth, awake and aware, however briefly. Make it meaningful. Make it matter. Make your awareness count for something beyond itself, for the larger awareness, the planetary consciousness, the cosmic evolution of complexity from simplicity, of consciousness from matter, of understanding from confusion. Sleep well and wake as Earth, ready to participate consciously in the great work of maintaining and healing the living planet that has given you life, consciousness, and the extraordinary gift of wondering whether it, too, might be aware. The question remains open. The mystery endures. And perhaps that's perfect. A question without final answer, inviting endless contemplation, forever drawing our awareness toward the miracle of existence on this blue-green jewel of a planet, conscious or not, but undeniably, magnificently, mysteriously alive. Good night.